Bienvenue. Welcome to the EMSB's ParentCon 2023 Lunch and Learn series. My name is Marika Ramundo, and I'm a parent volunteer on the EMSB Parents Committee. The purpose of this virtual Lunch and Learn series is to provide you with some valuable information, tips, and strategies to help you navigate the joys and challenges of parenting. We appreciate the time you've set aside to be here with us, so grab a cup of coffee or your favorite lunch and settle in for what promises to be an informative and enjoyable session. This time, when it comes to physical activity, we know the why because it's good for your health, and we know the should, 60 minutes a day of physical activity, but we don't always know the how. This webinar today will present different tools to help parents encourage a physically active lifestyle for their children and themselves. Wanting to gain confidence and skills to support outdoor play? Looking for accessible trails? Looking for ways to motivate your child? Join this webinar given by Katherine Baker for some moving ideas. Katherine Baker is a physical education and health consultant with the English Montreal School Board. Prior to joining the EMSB's Educational Services Department, she taught elementary and high school physical education and health. Katherine, take it away.
Hello and welcome, English Montreal School Board parents. First and foremost, thank you for being here. I know that your time is precious and your choices are many for this 2023 edition of the Parent Conference. My name is Katherine Baker and I work in the Educational Services Department at the EMSB as a physical education and health consultant. I support physical education and health teachers in their work, and I also support physical activity initiatives that happen outside of the class context. It's absolutely my pleasure to have the opportunity to share with you today. There's so much happening in the physical activity space at a societal level and also within education, and a lot of organizations and services in Montreal and Quebec that may be of interest to you or your children and family when it comes to physical activity. I've tried to include the website links to the resources I'm discussing today in large enough on the slides so that you can pause and take note of them if desired. So one of the key things about today is that I'm going to try and stay focused on the how. In this day and age, I would say that we all, adults as well as children and youth, have a very clear understanding of the fact that physical activity is good for us, and generally speaking, the more the better. For that reason, I'm not going to talk too much today about what we should be doing physical activity-wise, but hoping to more share some different approaches and ideas regarding how to go about doing that. But I am going to permit myself just one gratuitous slide of the should. And that is to share with you the 24-hour movement guidelines, the Canadian 24-hour movement guidelines for children and youth age 5 to 17. And these exist for adults as well. So you can go to the Canadian Society for Exercise Physiology website and see them for different age groups. But it's a great visual representation of how 24 hours in a day should look movement-wise. So you'll notice that there is the 4 categories, and definitely between 5 and 17 years old, children and youth should be accumulating 60 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity, in addition to a lot of step time of just light physical activity, being on their feet and moving. So today I'm going to talk about 3 different themes in terms of the idea of motivating children and youth and yourselves to get physically active. One of them is risky play. One of them is accessible and diverse space, and one of them is use of technology. So if thinking about risky play makes you feel alarmed, then I invite you to think about it more as supporting your child in outdoor play, adventure, challenge, those types of words. Risky play is actually the term that academic research is given to studying this certain type of play. And why am I talking about this in the context of motivation and encouragement of physical activity? Because this is the type of play that children find the most exciting. If you are supporting and encouraging this type of play, you are utilizing children's natural disposition towards excitement and thrill, which leads us to the definition of risky play. Risky play is thrilling and exciting forms of play where children are engaging with uncertainty and when there is a physical injury. It's not the type of play that goes so far as to be downright scary for children, but it's more that they feel that there is a certain sense of challenge with it. And it's actually this chance of physical injury that is so developmentally important for children as they learn to navigate risk from a young age and in lesser stakes situations. And that's most simply understood by the idea that you don't want the first time your child is engaging with risk and decision-making around risk to be when they are driving a car. You want it to be when they are climbing a tree or running down a hill. And just to give credit where credit is due from the outset, Dr. Mariana Brusoni is a Canadian professor and researcher at the University of British Columbia And she is really the leading Canadian scholar in the area of risky play. And if this is something that interests you, I highly encourage you to research it more on your own. And just to tell you, or to show you that this is not an idea that's very far out in left field, this has been talked about in the idea of risky play has been talked about by David Suzuki in a Nature of Things documentary on play and the power of play. And there's been many media articles and other podcasts and different outlets like that talking about risky play and why it's so beneficial for children and why and how we can encourage more of it. Participation, that does an annual report card on physical activity levels of children and youth, made the theme of outdoor play and certain elements of risky play a key foundation in their report card a few years ago. There are 6 types of risky play: play at great heights, play at rapid speeds, rough and tumble play, disappearing or getting lost, dangerous elements, and dangerous tools. Here are some examples of playing at great heights: climbing, balancing on high objects, hanging and swinging, jumping from still or flexible surfaces. I'm sure all of you as parents can think of examples in your head of your own child feeling thrilled, feeling excited with this type of play. The idea of thrill at rapid speeds is probably best exemplified by this video.
You made it!
So as you can see, the exhilaration that comes from the opportunity to play with a little bit of adventure and challenge is very on display there from that 23-month-old. Other ways that children play at rapid speeds: riding a bike at high speeds, running down steep hills, swinging on playground swings. So one good question to think about, and especially given that the theme of this conference is communication, is what is the role of risk in children's lives? And developmentally speaking, children need risk in their lives, and they need it to be able to navigate risk. So children's own risk management skills through learning how to handle risk situations in risky play is one of the best injury prevention strategies. Studies have shown that in populations of adults who have a fear of heights, there's an overrepresentation of adults who report not having had opportunities to, in their play as a child, to play at great heights. So there's a lot that happens with this type of play. Active for Life is a website designed for parents to encourage physical activity, support active outdoor play. And there's an article on there that talks about more forms of risky play. There's also a pod interview with Dr. Mariana Bruce that might be interesting to check out. What is the biggest thing that parents can do to support risky play? It's usually nothing. It's usually not intervening, fighting our urge to stop a child from doing something. I myself experienced that as a parent in that exact video of my son that you watched, where my first instinct in realizing he was taking an interest to running down that hill was potentially to stop him from doing, but then having assessed and seen that it was largely soft grass that was around him, I let him continue. But it's a good example of how supporting that risky play just meant doing nothing in that situation. In the spirit of the 2023 Parent Conference theme of communication, it can also be interesting to have conversations with your child around this type of play, debriefing experiences they had while playing, the feelings they had, sharing your own stories from childhood play. If the idea of supporting risky play puts you outside your comfort zone, there's a really excellent website that was developed called outsideplay.ca, and there's an interactive experience for parents and caregivers around navigating different situations that would be involved in supporting risky play. And I'll just show you. Sometimes the thing that can make the biggest difference from a motivation perspective when it comes to physical activity is a space for that activity that feels safe, welcoming, and encouraging. So I wanted to highlight in this section initiatives and organizations that are creating these types of spaces for equity deserving populations. And these are examples of just a few in Montreal. The first one that I wanted to talk about is KRUL, which is a provincial level organization that promotes tourism and culture for people with restricted physical ability. They have different sections here for winter activities, for water activities, Hippocamp, which is a beach aquatic wheelchair, and it lists the beaches that have where you can borrow this type of wheelchair. So it's a great resource for accessible physical activity. Another initiative from the government worth highlighting is the companion free entry card. So this is something that can be applied for if you have a child who needs a companion for activities. The minimum age is 5 years old, and there's where you can get more information on that. It's free entry for companions. Quebec has an extremely active Montreal chapter. They actually currently have a initiation to sport program going on weekends, about an 8-week program where children can try different activities, changes every weekend. So that may be an interesting avenue into trying different sport. Hike Montreal is an organization that I was introduced to this year through following their amazing social media during their Black Winter Fest. And they've got lots of information on their website, lots of different initiatives and programs. And this was for some pictures from their Black Winter Fest. And they even offer services to accompany families for customized trips to go hiking and different activities in the outdoors. Infinity Gym is an LGBTQ plus inclusive gym in Verdun. This is a thought if you have older adolescents that might feel more comfortable in this space. There's a really great videos, 2-minute CBC video clip. The individual speaks very eloquently on the importance of this type of space for many people who are LGBTQ plus. So again, if you live in the Sud-West borough and have an older adolescent child that might be interested in fitness, this could be a really interesting option. Again, these are but a very few examples. One wonderful thing of living in a city like Montreal is there's so many initiatives and organizing. And lastly, on the theme of equity, I wanted to mention the Jumpstart Grants that are available in terms of removing financial barriers. There are probably other avenues as well, but I know this is a main one for families, and they fund up to $300 per activity and a maximum of $600 per child per year. And lastly, I wanted to talk about motivating movement through the use of technology. The Participation is one of our big national organizations for promoting physical activity, and they have an excellent app that has a lot of challenges built into it. So for those of you who yourselves who are motivated by challenge, or may have children that are youth that are motivated by challenges, the Participation app is an interesting one to check. They had a mood one during the winter months. They have interesting connections on mental health and physical activity and lots of information and research on their app as well. SAPAC is our network of provincial parks. We have the Oka Park, Ile de Boucherville, and St. Bruno Park that are all pretty proximate to Montreal. And they've launched just new this year a Geo Explorer game to make hiking more fun, basically. So if your children might be more motivated to get out and hike with the use of an interactive game, in their words, this will transform hiking into a challenging exploration mission, combining all sorts of nature challenges. And I have to say, that's a screenshot from my phone when I downloaded the app. And I found it motivating that the statement is just go to the park to play this game. It won't really launch until you're in the park, which definitely piques curiosity. The use of technology can also help when we talk about drawing in other interests. So walking is one of the most accessible forms of physical activity and a great one to. And Mural Fest keeps an interactive dynamic map of all the murals that are drawn in their festival every year, a lot in downtown and on Saint Laurent Boulevard. So the idea of being able to plan out a walking route based on visiting different murals is something that might interest your teenagers if they have more of an art focus. So interesting to keep in mind different opportunities like this and pair them with physical activity. Chris, many of you may already be familiar with this website. It's been around since I think 2014, but she does an amazing job of reviewing parks and keeping an interactive map of the parks and splash pads that she's visited, many in the Montreal area, many around the Montreal area. So it might be motivating for your children as well to look at these in advance. She has reviews, but she has lots of pictures of different things in the park. So that could be a pathway in if you're planning some summer adventures and using this amazing website that has a lot of information on Montreal parks, including where skateboarding can happen and scootering. And lastly, I just wanted to, in the spirit of promoting physical activity, share this great image that really talks about developing some of the fundamental movement skills and how that translates into opening up worlds of sport and physical activity for your children. When we think about developing movement skills, we really think about it in terms of opening up many future opportunities. So it's a worthwhile cause, not just for their health right now, but for all sorts of other things that lay ahead. And with that, I want to say thank you for watching. I hope there was an idea or two that was interesting to you today. And I Wish a wonderful end of the school year and a happy, active summer.
A big thank you goes out to all the ParentCon speakers, educational partners, and behind-the-scenes organizers. Your commitment to excellence in education is outstanding, and thank you for taking the time to attend this session. We hope you found this session valuable, educational, insightful. For more resources, don't forget to visit the EMSB Parents Committee on Facebook or online at emsbparents.ca.